This is not an anti-meat story. It never was. Most people in the United States eat meat regularly, not because they are uninformed or cruel, but because meat is familiar, affordable, convenient, and deeply woven into culture and memory. Food is personal, emotional, inherited. Nobody likes being told that what they put on their plate defines their morality. At the same time, Americans overwhelmingly care about animals. We donate to shelters, rescue pets, share outrage over animal cruelty online, and teach our children kindness toward living things. These two truths exist side by side. We love animals. We love eating animals. What we almost never confront is the silent bridge between those truths. The system that allows both to coexist without forcing us to look too closely. This story is about what that bridge actually costs, not in ideology or guilt, but in dollars, cents, biology, and choices that quietly shape the lives of billions of animals every year. Modern food prices are historically low. In the United States, households spend a smaller share of income on food than at any point in recorded history. This efficiency is often celebrated as progress, but efficiency did not appear out of nowhere. Over the last century, farming has been transformed into an industrial system optimized for scale, speed, uniformity, and cost reduction. Animals became inputs, space became a variable, suffering became a line item that could be minimized as long as it stayed legally invisible. Most farmers are not villains. Many entered agriculture out of tradition or care for animals. But they operate inside markets that punish compassion and reward corners cut thin enough to remain unseen. When consumers demand cheap meat and retailers demand consistency, pressure flows downstream. The result is not sadism, it is optimization. At any given moment, there are more than 25 billion chickens alive on Earth. That is more than all other birds combined. Chickens are often dismissed as simple, yet research shows they recognize individuals, communicate distress, learn from observation, and display social bonding. For egg-laying hens, the dominant global system remains confinement. In battery cages, birds are packed so tightly they cannot stretch their wings or perform instinctive behaviors like nesting or foraging. Chronic frustration leads to self-injury and aggression, which is why beak trimming became standard practice. What makes this especially uncomfortable is how little money separates cruelty from improvement. In Europe, shifting from cages to barn systems adds only a few cents per egg. Allowing outdoor access raises costs slightly more. Ending the mass killing of male chicks through early egg scanning technology adds pennies. For the price of a cup of coffee per month, the lives of laying hens can change from constant distress to something approaching tolerable. Broiler chickens are bred to grow unnaturally fast. Muscle mass outpaces skeletal and organ development. Many birds experience chronic pain, heart failure, or collapse under their own weight before reaching slaughter age. These outcomes are not accidental. They are biological trade-offs engineered for efficiency. Switching to slower-growing breeds significantly reduces suffering while barely altering consumer prices. Studies suggest that in the United States, a serving of chicken breast would cost only a few additional cents if growth rates were moderated. Housing conditions matter too. Overcrowded sheds, with poor ventilation, increase stress and disease. Providing more space, light, and air raises costs modestly. Free-range systems cost more, but even intermediate improvements dramatically change animal experience. Chicken is cheap because the system absorbs pain so consumers do not have to. Pigs are among the most cognitively complex animals raised for food. They solve problems, remember locations, recognize emotional states in others, and form long-lasting social bonds. Research shows they experience boredom, fear, and anticipation in ways closely resembling dogs. In natural or enriched environments, pigs explore, play, and organize social relationships. Their intelligence is not theoretical. It shapes how they experience confinement. Industrial pork production systematically ignores these needs. Most pigs are kept indoors on bare concrete floors without bedding, space, or stimulation. Tail docking and castration without anesthesia remain routine. Mother pigs are often immobilized in metal crates so narrow they cannot turn around, sometimes for weeks, turning care into restraint. Studies from Northern Europe show that removing the worst practices, adding straw, space, and basic pain relief, raises pork prices by only a few cents per serving. Even outdoor access costs far less than many assume. The cruelty persists not because alternatives are impossible, but because they are optional. Beef cattle often live comparatively better lives than most farmed animals. Many spend months or even years grazing outdoors, moving freely, socializing, and experiencing conditions not far removed from their natural behavior. For much of their lives, their welfare appears acceptable. The hidden problem arrives at the end. Most cattle are eventually transferred into finishing feedlots, where crowding, mud, and constant stress dominate the final months. Diets are altered for rapid weight gain, movement becomes restricted, and health problems increase as efficiency takes priority over comfort. The contrast between early life and final conditions is stark. Studies show that maintaining pasture access throughout a cow's entire life raises beef prices only modestly. Dairy cows face a different burden. High milk yields, concrete flooring, and limited outdoor access cause chronic strain, joint injuries, and metabolic stress. Yet pasture access raises milk prices by only pennies per liter. Once again, the question is not affordability, it is priority. In the United States, the average person spends roughly $300 per month on food, with less than $90 going toward meat, eggs, and dairy combined. Even modest ethical improvements across the system would not radically change that balance. If prices for animal products rose by 50%, total monthly food spending would increase by around $40, an amount that feels large only because food has become historically cheap. Adjusted for income, Americans would simply be paying what they paid for food in the late 1980s, not entering new territory but returning to a recent norm. At the same time, nearly 1/5 of all meat purchased is thrown away. Cheapness has quietly stripped food of perceived value and care. This is not about luxury ethics or moral signaling. It is about aligning prices with the physical and biological realities that low costs currently hide. Many consumers genuinely want to act responsibly, yet they are confronted with a confusing and often misleading landscape of labels. Words like natural, organic, ecological, or biodynamic suggest care and ethics, but frequently include standards unrelated to animal welfare, while excluding protections that actually affect how animals live. The result is a sense of reassurance without meaningful change. Some restrictions, such as bans on genetically modified feed, raise costs while offering no clear benefit to animal health or well-being. Other labels function primarily as marketing, softening the image of highly industrial systems through comforting language rather than measurable improvements. True transparency remains rare. This confusion rarely serves consumers. It disproportionately benefits large producers who can navigate certification systems and absorb labeling costs. The most reliable improvements tend to come from clearly enforced welfare standards or from direct knowledge of farming practices, where conditions are visible rather than implied. Not all animal protein carries the same ethical or biological weight. Mussels are a striking example. They filter water, absorb carbon, and improve coastal ecosystems as they grow. They lack a centralized nervous system and show no evidence of experiencing pain or suffering in any meaningful sense. Farming them does not extract value through distress, but through ecological function. Comparisons like this are uncomfortable because they expose how selectively we apply concern. Intelligence, capacity for suffering, and environmental impact vary enormously across species, yet prices on the shelf rarely reflect those differences. We often pay the least for products that hide the greatest harm. Ethical eating is not about moral purity or perfect consistency. It is about proportional awareness, about recognizing where harm is greatest, where alternatives exist, and where small shifts in demand can meaningfully reduce suffering without demanding ideological extremes. You do not need to stop eating meat to recognize that the current system depends on suffering hidden behind efficiency. The solution is not moral perfection, it is incremental honesty. Buying less meat, wasting less food, choosing better conditions when possible, supporting policies that ban the worst practices. These actions compound. We shape food systems not only through what we demand, but through what we tolerate. If this story made you pause, reflect, or reconsider a habit, share your experience in the comments. How do food choices show up in your family, your culture, your routine? If thoughtful science-based discussions matter to you, consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and joining the conversation. Curiosity is not about having all the answers. It is about being willing to look,